Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Have you ever been a mentor? Being a mentor is fun. Why is it fun? Because you get to help other people that are just starting in some areas to learn from you and to grow. And that is a very rewarding thing to do. But before you can be a mentor, you have to be a protege because somewhere along the line, someone had to be a mentor to you to bring you through whatever program you may be dealing with, whether it's Toastmasters or work or whatever. So today I'm going to share with you about my Toastmasters mentor. I've had a lot of them, but one in particular stands out. I first met this mentor in 1970 when I was president of Monterey Peninsula Toastmasters. And I went on the next year to be the area governor, which is now called an area director. And during that year, I reported to the individual that I just referred to, who at that time was the senior lieutenant governor for District 4. Now, that's a position that no longer exists, but for Navy people, it's the equivalent of the XO or the executive officer, the person that's responsible for people. So he was my mentor at that point. I had a very challenging year as area governor, and it was he who helped me get through it with his wisdom and his guidance. And at the end of the year, he had hoped to be able to award me as the area governor of the year for the district. But someone else had better numbers, and so that person actually was awarded the area governor of the year. But I will come back to that story later in the speech. Because at that point, my mentor said, I couldn't award you area governor of the year, but I want you to run for higher district office. I want you to run for lieutenant governor of whatever the next line was. And I said, I'd like to do that, Mr. Mentor, but I'm moving to Hawaii. The Navy is moving me to Hawaii, so I can't do that. And he said, well, okay, that's fine. We're about to have a regional conference, and I have to explain that. The region in those days consisted of 7 or 8 districts, which extended from Hawaii to Las Vegas, north to San Francisco, and south to Tijuana. So it was a big area, and San Francisco was hosting that year's regional conference. And so at that conference, my mentor introduced me to the district officers in Hawaii, District 49, and I moved out there, and I immediately became involved with the district there, which is where I served most of my district offices. Now, during that period of time, 1975, Hawaii was chosen to host the 1975 Region 2 conference. Now, that's a big deal because, as I mentioned before, the region is a big chunk of Toastmasters real estate. And my mentor, who by that time was an international director, asked me if I would be amenable to chairing the speech contest for the region, and to which I agreed. I was scared to death because this was a big deal, and I hadn't been in Toastmasters that many years at that point. But he said, Carl, I'm counting on you. You are my ace in the hole. I need you to run this contest. So that involved communicating with people all over the region. And in Hawaii, that's not that easy. We didn't have email in those days, and telephone calls were pretty expensive. So most of it had to be done by snail mail. But we pulled it off, and we had a good contest. And the only blip that we had is that about halfway through the contest, the band next door struck up and made a little bit more noise than we would have liked during the contest. But nonetheless, it was a good contest. That was 1975, and the years went on. I had a couple of other tours and eventually got back to Hawaii once again. And at that point, my mentor worked for NASA Ames in Moffett Field, and he traveled a lot. And at one point, he took a trip to Australia, and he had a stopover in Honolulu for about 4 hours. So I went and met him at the airport, picked him up, brought him back to my house, and we were chatting. And I said to him, I'm really not that involved with district anymore. I'm doing some speech contests, but basically all I do is show up every week. And he said, well, Carl, you do more than that. By showing up every week, you're setting the example. And you're setting the example for the newer Toastmasters who are going to look toward you to see how things are done in the Toastmasters arena. So that made me feel pretty good about the whole thing. Now, years passed again, and by that time I had a small family, and I wasn't too involved with anything beyond club level in Toastmasters. And finally, in 2014, my Toastmasters friends, some of you who are here today, celebrated my 50th anniversary in Toastmasters. And one of the roasters at that was my mentor. And he acknowledged that back years ago when he was district governor, he could not award me the area governor of the year for 71, 72. So instead, he was going to do it right then. And he gave me a little piece of paper that acknowledged that I was the area governor of the year for 71, 72. That made me feel pretty good. Obviously, it wasn't official. Doesn't buy me anything except the goodwill and a good feeling that my mentor believed in me. Now, some of you have actually seen and met my mentor. And my mentor actually was represented Toastmasters International for a presentation, both at our 40th anniversary and again at our 50th anniversary. Now, he's starting to slow down a little bit in his old age now. Unfortunately, he has some health problems. He has increasing problems with Parkinson's disease, and I've understood recently that he has had some problems with dementia. And so, unfortunately, he's at that point. Now, you're all probably wondering, who am I talking about? And maybe one or two of you guessed. So I'm going to have to share my screen and show you the individual that I'm talking about. And this individual is past international director, past District 4 governor, Guy Ferry, distinguished Toastmaster, Madam Toastmaster.